Okay then, Michael, thanks a lot for your time. Really, really appreciate it. For those of the listeners that don't necessarily know who you are or what you do, would you mind just giving a quick intro about yourself, and then we can dive into the questions for today?
Nathan, great to be here. Looking forward to a really fun conversation.
Pleasure, mate.
My name is Michael Brandt. I'm a 240 marathoner, so just a little over 6 minutes per mile for the marathon. I studied computer science in undergrad at Stanford and got really into human performance spaces, basically like a giant nerd, big like computer science engineer, started tracking a lot of different metrics, wearables, blood glucose levels, heart rate, started doing that. I've been doing that for the past decade plus, and it's helped me advance quickly as an athlete and built this business around it. And we got started. I got started doing work with the Department of Defense Special Operations Command, and it's been rolling since then. Our product's called Ketone IQ, and I'll leave it there just for the high level intro because I know we're going to cover a lot of fun stuff here today.
Brilliant. Let's talk quickly about your running. You're really into your running. I've seen you on social media. So where did that all start? How did that passion for running come, and how's that journey been over the years?
I mean, I just love running. I think it's the oldest sport on the planet.
Yeah.
It's been running for forever. It's the oldest sport. You, me on the savannah. It's like, hey, I'll race you to that rock over there. Like, let's see who gets there first. This is the oldest, most fundamental sport. It's so primitive. Everything else is, made. A lot of the sports that we know and love, basketball, it was like invented like 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Soccer, football, all this stuff's been invented like pretty recently. And not to say it's not, I'm not even trying to hate on anyone. I think anytime, any way you get out there and get after it is great. I think there's something really pure about running. With me personally, it resonates really deeply. Just my happy place. I started getting into it, started just really enjoying that runner's high. And it was one of those things. It's like, okay, well, if I like it, that's an unfair advantage, right? If you can smile while you're running, if you can smile while you're doing anything, like that's, I think the scariest thing in the world is like competing against someone who's like enjoying it, like chewing on glass and enjoy, like the person that's sitting next to you on the test, like whistling and they're done early and they turn it in. You're like, oh shit. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And just in yourselves, like I just picture, I grew up in Chicago in the 90s and like, Michael Jordan, just a lot of just big smile, tongue out, just like having fun. I think that's always an X factor. And it's something I pay attention to in my own body and the way I live my life. Like if I'm having fun doing something, it's an unfair advantage. I don't have fun, paying my taxes or, do whatever, doing deep, spreadsheet work. I know other people really enjoy that. And that's why you get an awesome accountant or finance lead, whatever. You find your thing that you love. And if you have an unfair advantage where you just love it, like a lot of people hate running. I don't know. For me, once I got into running, even if it was just like smaller runs too, I was just like, always felt amazing, always felt really good afterwards. And then it was one of those things where it's like, well, if I like it, how far can I go? Like, what's 30 miles a week feel like? What's 40 miles a week feel like? Last week I ran 95 miles last week. And I'm building up for a big race coming up in a month and a half here, and it's just kind of gone organically from this fundamentally just place of joy and loving it and grateful for the sky and the air in my lungs and all that stuff. And then I do just get really into the numbers. I think running is interesting. Running, cycling, triathlon, a lot of these like sports that are in a way very like simple, where it's just go from A to B as quickly as possible. Football, basketball, they have a lot of other dynamics to them, teamwork, ball handling, all that. There's something about running that to me is like, it's so simple, but then there's a lot of complexity inside of it and you can just look at all these numbers. You can look at your lactate threshold. You can look at where's your zone 2. You can look at your, calories, your blood glucose levels before and after. Like you can look at everything. And it gets very number oriented, which I think I actually do like that part of it. The kind of quantitative measuring, there's something about that kind of clicks for me. So passionate, I would say a mix of just pure passion. I enjoy running at like the animal level. And then I like kind of nerding out on all the little like different stats.
Do you just find that interesting in terms of the stats that you're doing or you're achieving, so to speak, but then also kind of ways that you can improve your running overall, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, it's really interesting how you can do counterintuitive things to get better as a runner. Like every run, you're not trying to like run as hard as you can necessarily. Like a lot of runs, I go like slower than my marathon pace, and it just, if you do that every day, you get a lot better. And so I saw some interesting analysis from Strava, the app that a lot of runners use to track their runs, that 80% even for pro marathoners, that 80% of their training volume is slower than marathon pace. So it's really interesting basically how you can like piece together, like you're not always trying to go balls to the wall and like do a full race pace effort every day. Like you're certain days you're working on more stamina or more metabolic flexibility. Other days you're working on more like the top end, more speedy types of work. Other days you're doing weightlifting and mobility work. And so you kind of, you solve it by, you put different layers of paint on different days, and it all comes together. Like you basically never do a full on race pace effort 26.2 except for race day. Cause like if you do it right, you blow so much steam out there that like you're done, you're cooked for like a week afterwards or more if you really race it well. And like that wouldn't be ideal in training. On training you want to go to like 80% load and then recover and do it again the next day. So it's this whole dance that is just very fun to me. Like how hard can you push it while like being right under that line of cooking yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. So we're here today to talk about, unlocking human potential and obviously your business with Ketone IQ. For could you just go into details about what ketones are and the role in human metabolism?
Yeah. In a really simple sentence, ketones are energy. We're burning energy all day long. A lot of people have some macro goals, or we just kind of have this understanding that 2,000 or 3,000 calories a day is about what a human eats and consumes in a day. And calories are energy. Calories is a unit of measurement of energy. Ketones are a type of energy. So Ketone IQ has calories in it, and it's energy, and it has some really interesting properties to it. And people have known about ketones for 100 years because your body can make ketones. Your body does make ketones all the time. A lot of people have heard of things like the ketogenic diet or bulletproof coffee, where basically your body will turn fat into ketones. And so we've known for like 100 years that your body makes ketones. They're this preferred fuel when they're present. Your brain especially loves ketones, thrives on ketones. And it was only more recently that we figured out how to make an exogenous ketone, like a ketone that you can drink that confers all those benefits, but without having to jump through all the hoops of making your body make ketones. And so where this started getting really interesting was in 2019, I got a $6 million contract with the Department of Defense Special Operations Command to do a 7-part research project, the largest ever research project on ketones, and look at a bunch of different ways that ketones help in like low oxygen environments. They help with things like when you're training to exhaustion and then doing like target practice, and you're measuring like quality of precision of shooting, that you improve scores on that stuff. So it's a form of energy that basically confers a really elite set of benefits.
Okay, brilliant. So is that the reason why you would consider ketones to be the optimal fuel source, for the body compared to sugar, as an example, especially considering, let's say, the current state of the metabolic health in societies generally?
Yeah, I think people have just in general way too much sugar, and there's a place for it if you're really training at a high level where sugar does help. You look at any elite level triathlon or marathoner, like they're slamming CrossFit or like elite level any sport. Like you are trying to eat a lot of carbs, and you're burning them really quickly. And I'm not here to necessarily like completely vilify carbs because they're part of the overall balance. But in general, I would say people overdo it, and that's why you have this metabolic health crisis where the issue with carbs is that they're not very satiating. Like on a this is actually like objectively measurable, because you can give someone 100 calories of sugar and you can give someone 100 calories of like steak and eggs, and you can see both on the subjective, like just having people rate how hungry are you or not an hour later. And you can also look at like hunger hormones. You can look at ghrelin, other hunger hormones, and see how satiated someone is. And it's just true that certain calories are more satiating, like per unit per calorie, than other types of food. And so you have something like a bag of potato chips, crisps. You have a
crisps. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. You have a bag of candy. It's like negative satiating. You eat it and you like want more of it. Versus part of the reason why keto diet works, and I'm not here to necessarily pump the keto diet super hard. I don't do anything like a strict keto diet, but there's some truth to this idea that like if you eat to your fill of steak and eggs and nothing else, you actually will lose weight, because like it's hard to eat more than the 2,000 calories in a day of steak and eggs, because it's very satiating. It's
Yeah.
easy to eat a lot of. If you're having milkshakes, like you can down a 600 calorie milkshake like nothing, and then you'll be hungry an hour or two later. And so there's something to be said for like the different quality of calories that we're getting. And yeah, we've seen with ketones that ketones in particular are very satiating per calorie. And so a lot
Yeah.
of people like to have it as a way to like get fuel, like feel really good for your workout, but then also not be like ravenously hungry elsewise in the day too.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that's why then there's a lot more attention on ketones now, especially as a significant marketing category if you compare it to the likes of other trends like protein, CPD, omega-3? I mean, what's your view on it now? Because like from outside, looking from the outside, like myself, it does seem to be rising. It's a lot more aware now. People are a lot more aware of ketones. I mean, what's your view on it?
Definitely. I see talked about it a lot more. I think we have some piece to play in it. We recently launched as ketone.com and have been very much flying the flag and educating the world about what's so cool about ketones. And one of my favorite examples is, we talk a lot about everything you mentioned, CBD, protein, electrolytes, and a lot of that is new to a degree, like depending on the time window that you look at. That Gatorade created the category of electrolytes, and that happened in like our grandparents' lifetime. Like that happened in the 1960s, where Gatorade had this insight that, hey, when they were measured, there were these scientists at the University of Florida, and it's named after the Florida Gators.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't know that they measured people's sweat, and they were like, hey, well, clearly, like there's more than just water inside your sweat. Like you're sweating and it's salty. And so you're losing something more than just water. And why don't we figure out a concoction that's like water plus those other things that you're losing? And that sounds so obvious right now today in 2024.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
nothing new to that. But the fact that like that was new, 50 years ago is interesting. It means that technology and our approach to nutrition is always evolving and advancing. And there's no way, like I think you'd have to be like crazy to say that we've figured it all out, right? There's always a next discovery on the horizon. And whether we talk broadly, AI and robots and stuff, and then just even within nutrition, like we're always learning new things and coming up with new approaches. And so ketones are super interesting. I think that we've known about ketones for a long time, and it's only more recently that the economies of scale and the manufacturing, the ability to do like very precise types of fermentation to like make the actual molecule. It like took a number of different insights and breakthroughs to get to this spot where we're able to actually make it at scale at a price that's affordable for many. And it's I think it's dawn of a new day, and I'm here. I'm just all in on it. Like we don't really do anything besides ketones, because I think it's just like the most. I think it's super interesting. Like we don't have like a collagen powder or a whatever you want electrolyte. We don't have any of these other things in our product portfolio as a brand. Like we're just all in on ketones. I think it's that interesting that it's like I think we can focus on it for the next like 10 years plus, the way that Gatorade made electrolytes a thing. And that's how deep I think this area is.
No, brilliant. Was your interest in ketones as part of your running journey? Obviously, you mentioned at the start it was all about, you were looking at research into different areas. Was ketones one of that? And then that kind of not necessarily inspired the idea for Ketone IQ, but kind of led you down that path through your running journey?
Exactly. Yeah. As a runner, I started looking at everything. Like, what can I do to get that edge? Like, how do I improve my movement patterns? How do I improve my training program? How do I improve my nutrition? And then just looking inside of nutrition, seeing things like, the role that a fasted run can play in, a weekly program, or the role that doing the opposite and like being really well fed with the right types of nutrition can have a really strong benefit for a different type of workout. Like a fasted long run is going to help you a lot with that metabolic flexibility, maybe like the back half or the back, the end of a marathon, the end of a longer effort. But well fed, fully replete system is going to help you to really get like a fast, high volume training day out there. So anyway, started looking very closely at nutrition, and then ketones kept coming up because again, like your body makes ketones, and it's really interesting to see how they help you when your body's pushed to your limits. Your body starts making more of them, um, and it was asking that kind of entrepreneurial question of if these are so efficient, so powerful, why can't you go to the store and like buy a shot of ketones?
Yeah.
And I was pulling at that thread and then seeing that like getting the Department of Defense interested as a first customer, as like a test bed, and then a lot of the pro tour teams started using it. Conor McGregor started using it in his training to up his stamina. This was a lot of people started kind of getting interested in it, even in the early days when it was super expensive and rare.
Yeah.
And we just built from there to make something a lot broader for the mainstream.
Yeah. And obviously we've talked about how it improves performance and how it, the longevity of the performance to perform at, a higher rate for a longer time. But does it also aid in recovery? Does it also benefit recovery as well?
Yeah, it's really helpful for recovery. We've seen a couple of different things, and I think that the important concept there is that your body is always using energy. Like you use energy when you're working out, and then as soon as you're done working out, you're still using energy. Like you're using
Yeah.
energy to repair the muscles that you just exerted in your exercise. You're using energy to just do all the recovery activities. You're using energy when you're sitting at your desk and thinking. You're using energy when you're sleeping. It's like water. Like your body's always using water. You got to be hydrated at 10 a.m. to go through your day. You got to be hydrated at 10 p.m. If you're dehydrated, you're gonna have a hard time sleeping and have a hard time falling asleep and lower sleep quality. So your body's always using energy and doing things. And ketones as a efficient energy source, they help you with performance. They also help you with recovery. And we've seen a few different things where they help your body with muscle protein resynthesis. They help your body with muscle glycogen reuptake. So basically helping your body like repair its muscle, helping your body pack on glucose, glycogen, carbohydrates, like pack on and basically refuel for your next effort. And we have a big study going now looking at ketones and basically like new blood vessel formation, the ability of your body, because all that stuff takes energy to like create more blood vessels to be able to properly fuel your muscles. And so we've seen some super interesting case study types of stuff, like interesting, promising early findings. And it's an area that we recently started partnering with Team Visma, Lisa Bike, and they won the Tour de France back to back the last 2 years.
Okay.
And they've been big users of ketones, and we recently made a more formal partnership with them, and
Brilliant.
And we're doing a bunch of research together on that area. So like blood vessel formation, EPO production. EPO has to do with your body's ability to carry oxygen around to your cells. So there's a couple of things that, like the obvious way that I just explain ketones, to random person on the street is, hey, it's high performance energy. You're going to feel really good in 15 minutes after you take it. It's great for a workout or great throughout your day. That's like the level one. And level two is actually like, oh, well, having it on a more ongoing basis helps your body to adapt better as an athlete and have this like longer kind of recovery types of benefits.
With the rise of modern food technology now, how can individuals discern between beneficial innovations and potentially harmful, let's talk about ultra processed food as an example. I mean, there's a lot of information that's out there across social media in particular about what to eat, when to eat, what not to eat, what recovery to take, what products to take. I mean, from your opinion, based on the research that you've done and obviously your interest in the subject, where should individuals kind of go to really find out the best information from your point of view?
I think it's a great question, and it's not obvious, right? Because like there's a lot of technology advancements happening all the time. There's a lot to be said for going old school, like do what your grandparents did and do the ancient stuff. And I think there's a big return to like grass-fed meat, or spending time barefoot, getting sunlight, not being in front of a computer screen all day. I think there's a ton of truth to all that, and so I think we have to be smart about what we choose to let into our lives or not. I mean, you can go all the way pendulum swing and be just reject it all and be total, Amish Luddite. Like just I don't drive a car. I don't get on airplanes. I don't do Wi-Fi. Like that's less than 1% of people I think are going to opt into that. that lifestyle. So I think it's a matter of like selectively what do we let in or not. Like I think there's a lot of, if you go to the average convenience store, there's a lot of like random ingredients kludged together that like we're not meant to be eating. It's highly addictive. It's not good for you. It drives up inflammation. It's not like designed for your wellness. It's designed to be like very cheap, economical, highly addictive, and that's why we have a lot of these uh, this metabolic health crisis globally. So, okay, as far as what I'd say, I think there's two answers to like, okay, where do you look? I think you got to find your trusted set of experts. I think like there's great resources out there, like great podcasts, blogs, YouTube channels that you can dial into to see what is going on, and you trust those people. So we like I like Ben Greenfield. I like Dr. Huberman. Like there's some good folks out there that you can track. And then the second half of that answer is it's more democratized than ever to be able to measure your own body as a system. I think that's really cool, and something we've seen the last decade where there's something like 50 million Americans that have some kind of Apple Watch or Whoop or Aura or some kind of smart device or wearable where you can see your sleep score, you can see your heart rate variability. I always recommend just getting regular blood tests above and beyond what your typical doctor might order. Just
absolutely.
get the blood tests, like store them. There's and just track what's going on. Like see what's going on. Like there's such a thing as overtraining to the point where you have like too high cortisol all the time and low sleep score, and that's not good for you. Obviously undertraining is not good for you. You don't want to be out of shape, and that will lead to its own set of negative health effects. But the point being that like you're able to take a lot of it into your own hands. You're able to see, oh whoa, like my blood glucose is really high, I should try to eat things that have less sugar in them. Like you can just like you can order a Levels or NutriSense. Like you can like download it and install it and observe for yourself. Like you can see your heart, you can see your sleep score and say, wow, like my sleep score has been not that good. Like I really should cut back on caffeine afternoon. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that in the last couple of years, and I feel like it's only increasing. People are like, I only have a cup of. Yeah, you're nodding your head. Yeah,
absolutely. It seems to be don't have coffee after like 3 p.m. or even earlier than that, because then it will dysregulate your sleep, even though it's probably 6 to 7 hours before you go to bed. All of that, it just seems to be very popular at the moment as one of those research things.
Yeah, and so we're seeing the ability to like directly test ourselves. Like I can see if I do sauna that later that day, I'm able to. I almost always have really good quality sleep in the night after if I've done sauna during the day. There's something about it just activates parasympathetic system. It just makes my muscles all relax. It just like it, and it's not me like saying trust me, bro. It's like I can see after I do sauna or contrast therapy, sauna and cold, and I can see afterwards that like I can measure. Like I'm wearing like minimum like 2 different devices at a time that are measuring my HRV and sleep score and stuff like that. So you can see it register. So I think that's a really special thing about the time that we live in. It's an exciting time to be alive because you can directly measure it. I think like a couple decades ago, a lot of the health and nutrition, it was trust me, bro. It's like, hey, here's a superfood. Hey, eat some acai berries, eat some kale. It's a superfood. And like, I'm not saying that stuff was all wrong, but I'm saying it's like there's maybe some truth to those, but the ability to independently test and verify through wearables, through more frequent blood draws and tracking it and measuring those over time, be able to like take your own health into your own hands, I think is just a really exciting aspect of the time that we're in right now.
Totally agree with that, Michael. From a food perspective, in terms of the advancements in foods, and then from one perspective, you could see it's going down a path which we really don't want it to go. With, like, as we mentioned, ultra processed food. There's a lot of sugars in a lot of things. Do you feel that there's some positive aspects of the way that food industry has advanced over the years, but also where do you see that there's room for improvement?
I think that there's more access to information now if you want it. I do a lot of the podcasts, resources, websites that we talked about, they're more robust than ever, and you can get advice more now than ever, and it's searchable and all that good stuff. Uh, I think that part is great. I think there's more like it's like you can get anything that you want, but I think a lot of on the other hand, a lot of what's just by default in front of you when you go to the grocery store or convenience store
Yeah.
is not great for you. So it's like you have, I would say, like more option to be able to like learn and to be able to like purchase healthy food, stuff that's going to help you perform at a high level, stuff that's going to help you, feel good, recover well, all that stuff. You have more like info and access to that, but then at the same time, you have more noise as well.
Yeah.
Where I think it used to be that you could go to the store and like an egg was an egg, a chicken was a chicken. Like you didn't have Twinkies and Pop Tarts and all that. Like you just had normal food, and you kind of couldn't go wrong. And now um, you can get access to what you need. You can do a blood draw and you can see, okay, I'm low on magnesium. I need to eat more foods with magnesium or have
Yeah.
a specified magnesium supplement. And then, oh, wow, when I start taking that, my magnesium goes up, and then follows from there. Okay, my sleep score is going up. I feel more regulated in general. Like you can do all that now in a way you couldn't do 50 years ago. But then there's also the like did a caveman need to measure their magnesium, or were just the plants and vegetables and meat that we were eating then more naturally replete with everything that we needed? So I think it's a blessing and a curse. It's like a lot of technology. There's the good with the bad. I think
Yeah.
on the whole, it's good because I do believe just like, more knowledge is power, and people do have, I have a lot of trust that people, when they have access to that information, they're able to, what we were talking about before, when people are able to measure and monitor their own biomarkers. Not everyone's going to do it, and that's a shame. But I do think that I do think that fundamentally, like society will bend towards a healthier direction as the the quality of signal that we have on our own personal health increases.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that, Mark. But I also feel it's like a generational thing. I think as the new generation of kids, into young adults, so on and so forth, they won't necessarily know any different because there wouldn't have been a time where, there was a time for me and you perhaps where, there wasn't Apple Watches or Whoops or anything like that. Whereas now, because they're getting more and more part of life, let's say, that I think it will eventually just be people won't know any different, and it's just part of their life now where they're able to track all different things, and hopefully the technology will get more advanced as you've mentioned. But I just feel that that's a path. It's inevitable, I think, where that just becomes life now, for generations to come over the few years.
I think so. I think about all the time when I'm in my car. I think about how cars didn't exist like 150 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
like now, especially in America, but I would say just globally, like cars and the infrastructure to support them, roads, like asphalt everywhere. It's it's insane. Like it was just such a powerful innovation that took over society, took over urban planning, took over the culture, and now there's roads everywhere. And that just wasn't the case. Like you didn't have highways, you didn't have all this stuff
Yeah,
150 years ago. You had whatever you were doing, with horse and buggy, but it wasn't nearly the same. And so I think we got to believe, and we've seen it more, maybe a more modern example, just like computers and the internet and everything, that there are these like phase changes in society that are not obvious until almost like until they happen. I
yeah,
think some people, we always try to like predict the next one. There's always the early adopters, and we're trying to see the next one. But um, like a lot of times, things are these societal shifts are very slow until they're very sudden, all of the sudden. And I agree with what you're saying. Where I think we're on the edge of one with. I think if you were born in this world where it's just like it's customary to know your biomarkers, and it's almost like you're just dropped in as a video game player in the simulation, where like when
yeah,
you're playing Super Mario, or you're playing, any kind of like role playing game, like you see your health score, or you see
yeah,
your like skill level, you see the like dashboard. And so it's very natural that humans are now just in that world too. Like, okay, yeah, I can
yeah.
see my like, and I think a lot of the user experience designers on a lot of these uh, wearables and implants and things like that we're talking about they very much play on that kind of video game dynamic, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really interesting take, actually, because I never thought about it like that. But as soon as you mentioned the likes of Mario, and I grew up playing Mario, you know, you see your life on there, you see what's happening, you eat mushrooms to grow bigger and stuff like that. It is kind of, in a way, like that now with the technology that we've got. I just find that really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun time to be alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you just go through the process now, talking about the business specifically, of taking HVMN and then Ketone IQ specifically from an idea to a successful startup, and include like the development of the products and, you know, acquiring your first customers? Can you just go through the journey a little bit?
Yeah, hopefully this is helpful to any entrepreneurs, or at the very least entertaining. That it's been really fun building a business. Takes a lot of work and a lot of analogies to training at a high level too. Like there's no one day that makes or breaks you as an athlete. I think a lot of people who are experienced in anything, CrossFit, golf, underwater basket weaving, like we all know, like there's no one day that makes or breaks you. It's the constantly showing up, compounding every single day. And one thing I always tell my team, and I stole this from Amazon, is that it's day one. Every day is day one. It's never day two, because day two is complacency and decline and defeat. It's always day one. It's always, this is the first day of the rest of our lives. And the journey, okay, so it got started, very early days. My co-founder and I, just big biohackers, trying out a lot of different things, doing 7-day long fasts, trying different nootropics off of the internet, off of weird gray market stuff, trying different approaches to increase our performance and biomarkers for longevity. And inside of that, tried and launched a few different things. In retrospect, it's very obvious, like ketones is the thing that we're all focused on now. Like the company at the start was called HVMN, Healthy and Modern Nutrition. And the idea there was to find something venture scale, something really interesting and breakthrough in the space of human performance. And then over the last couple of years, we've just been completely obsessed with ketones, and our product Ketone IQ is the only thing that we sell now.
Yeah.
And so early days, we were trying a lot of different things, had a few different product concepts flying around. And then really, as things just followed our passion and followed also the market, and just seeing what people were interested in, the products that, really were differentiated and special, and all that good stuff. Like business shouldn't be too hard. I think you want to be careful as an entrepreneur to like force your product idea too hard out into the world. I think there's an interesting duality to it, which is that you do need to be relentless and pushy with your product, but there's also such a thing as being bullheaded and stupid. And like, if you're banging your head against the ground for like too long on a bad idea, like it shouldn't be that hard. Like at a certain point, RX bar, that's a few conversations with Peter Rahal, the founder over there. Like at a certain point, like it just took off like wildfire. Like it was really popular in the CrossFit world, and they were just at gyms, and like they couldn't keep it in stock, and it was just flying. Like at a certain point, like you want to be really pushy. Like you can't. I think it's arrogant to think just day one when you throw up your website, it's gonna take off like wildflower. Like wildfire. But there's this dance of like, you want to be pushy, but it's a good analogy is like, lifting in the gym. Like they say, you lift with your ego and you're going to pull something. Like if there's such a thing as like overdoing it in the gym to where you're going to have a bad day, and that might lead to a bad month and a bad year. There's a way to be more in flow with it. Like do what's natural there.
And again, that's a really good analogy. Was some starting your own business, was that always part of the plan, or did you find a niche or an opportunity and then decided to make a business from it?
I always thought it would be fun to be an entrepreneur. Like I definitely got started with the idea that, hey, it's going to be really fun to run a company. Let me try out a lot of different ideas and see what sticks. For me, I think the way that my mind works. I guess I'm a little ADD. Like I enjoy jumping around different
Okay.
topics. To me, like branding is really interesting. Supply chain is really interesting. Science really interesting. Like actually, getting out there and running and putting products to the test is really interesting. Everything is interesting to where I feel like I I think a good leader is good at stitching it all together and hiring people way smarter than them. And I think a key part of that is you need to be like proficient
Yeah.
in the different areas. Like you need to care enough about how you're doing everything to be able to spot what A plus talent looks like. And I don't I don't want to be tooting my own horn here because I'm still figuring it all out. But I think there's some moment for honest reflection of like if you actually enjoy being like a jack of all trades type, and you actually enjoy like diving into a conversation with your lawyers, and you enjoy diving into a conversation with your designers, and you enjoy diving into a conversation with suppliers and inventory financing and what like if all that stuff sounds kind of fun, then you might be a good entrepreneur. And I'm not casting any judgment on it because I think there's so many ways to make money in the world. You can also make money by just being an amazing lawyer or designer or software engineer. Like
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any pressure, hopefully not from me to say like anyone ought to go be an entrepreneur. I think it's more like if all that stuff is really fun, and I observed it myself, like that all that is really fun. And I think I can relatively uniquely pull things together. And that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
do
So
in life.
yeah, because like you say, your passion, like in all different areas, it kind of makes you fit in the entrepreneur role, let's say, quite well. Compared, but that's not necessarily to say, look, like you've said, if you want to be a lawyer, that's fine. If you want to be a sport athlete, that's fine. But for you, for your journey, it just felt right for you naturally because you were interested in so many subjects as well as bringing a product to fruition.
Yeah, to me, it's all interesting. Just curious about everything, and I'm okay with not being the smartest person at every last thing. Like I'm okay. I consider myself like spare tire. Like,
Yeah,
and especially when you're starting the company with like one or two friends or yourself or whatever, that like you are the spare tire. Like I was the first designer, and you're building the website together. You're running supply chain. You're answering customer support tickets. You're doing everything. You're formulating the product. You're doing everything, and that's what it takes to go from 0 to 1. I think of any business, and then you start hiring out the biggest impact, largest need areas, and hopefully you hire people that are way smarter than you. And you got to then your company gets to a point. At a certain point, you get to where you're really like a culture leader, cheerleader, just like vision setter
yeah,
and motivator, and you want to make it an awesome place to work for people that are much smarter than you in the given domain. So at this point, our research lead has a PhD in metabolism, focusing specifically on ketones from Oxford, and our head of product has a chemical engineering degree from MIT, and our head of marketing and design like used to run his own creative agency. So like
yeah,
at this point, like I've been very fortunate to get an awesome group of people around me that are just kick ass at all the things that the company needs at this stage. And um, yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun, always evolving. I think what it means to be a founder, getting things from 0 to 1, is very different from going 1 to 10. I will say my biggest flaw. It's like you know how there's that idea that your like biggest strength can also sometimes be your biggest
yeah, yeah,
weakness. Like for me, it's that I'm like very willing to roll up my sleeves and do stuff. And I think at a certain scale, when you've hired dozens of people around you that are like smarter than you, like it's actually counterproductive. Like you're stepping on toes, you're bothering people, you're randomizing people. Like you really got to be good at like backing up off of it. Whereas in the early days, when it's 0 to 1, it's like, yo, just
just
yeah,
get it
roll up
done.
your sleeves and do
Yeah,
everything. And so it takes a lot of I say personal growth um, to evolve a business from like your first dollar to your first $1 million to your first $10 million. Like you're a different person, I would say, along each step of the way.
Yeah. Would
For
you?
me, that's very fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you consider that to be your key lesson that you've learned and along the journey is how to take a step back and when to step back at the right time?
Yeah, you constantly got to be having that day one mindset. Like you got to be in touch with reality. Like, what does the map look like? What do we actually need to do right now? And I always think about the general works for the troops, right? That idea of a servant leadership. Like what can I do for my team? And like what is it? Do we need to hire a new person because there's a hole on the team and everyone's stressing and no one's really good at covering what that hole is? Do I need to go find that person, or allocate budget and empower people to go hire that person? Do I need to fundraise? Do I need to chime in on product direction? Do I need to go out and just meet a bunch of people and
Yeah.
famous people and get them talking about the product and hyped up on it? Like, what can I do to help the team? What can I do to help everyone on the team have their best career, to have fun every day, to like have it just be like above and beyond. Obviously, we're here to make ketones a thing. But
Yeah.
it's also fun. Like if the same team was working on a different, if we were making cutting edge shoes or on hospital equipment or anything, like could the same team be having fun and be invigorated? I've met like some of the best CEOs I've met out ahead of me that are later in their career and have figured it out. Is like it's so interesting. Like they're I know this. I met this guy recently. He's been the CEO of like 5 different companies, and they're
Okay.
all done phenomenally well. And it's interesting because like from one company to the next, he just brings the same 10 people with him. And so when you're hiring him, if you're like the board of directors and you're hiring a new CEO, like you're not just hiring him, you're hiring him plus like he has this following around him. He has this tribe around him where people just they trust that in his style. They like working with him. They like the culture around
That's
him,
great.
and that's the mode that I'm in right now. Is being like trying to make it the trying to be the best boss that people have had. Like, how do I make this just the awesomest job for people? And I say that all like I don't think I'm perfect score at that. Like I'm figuring it out,
Yeah.
and that's the part of my journey that I'm on right now. It's just like being a really good people leader, having a really good culture and tribe around us.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Michael. Let's go back to ketones for a second. So, for you personally, how do you incorporate it into your daily routine? Both at work and then during your physical activity like running. And how have you noticed you impacted your performance and overall well-being?
Yeah, I always take Ketone IQ first thing in the morning, and then I'll go for a run. I often will have coffee as well. Yeah, I just really like the combination of ketones and caffeine together.
Okay.
It's like this nice 1-2 punch. Caffeine gets you kind of up and going, and then ketones give you this more sustained brain energy for a couple hours beyond. I might have a little just solid food as well, get the system going. I'll go out, hit a workout, and then it's really important right afterwards. I always eat right afterwards.
Okay.
There's so many studies on how that window of half an hour up to an hour where if you eat carbs, protein in that window, that your body's going to take it on much better than if you
Yeah,
wait outside of the window. So I always just try to have the smoothie like in a cooler in my trunk, and
that's
just
good.
as soon as I'm done, I'll eat that, and then I'll have kind of for me as I'm not a pro athlete, right? I'm like a obsessed, addicted amateur,
Well,
but
I
I don't get
wouldn't, I
paid.
wouldn't, I wouldn't sell yourself short there. I mean, from what I've seen on your social media and your journey of running, you get a few miles in on a weekly basis. So whilst you're not, representing your country, I would say that you're up there with as an elite athlete for sure.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Putting in the sets and reps. At the end of the day, my job is my job. I gotta show up to work as well. And I think a
Yeah,
lot. I think that's most people. Like very few people have the privilege to be pro athlete all in, and that's where they make their living. And for the 99% rest of us, it's that as soon as you get in your hard workout in the morning, like your post workout is also your like pre work day nutrition and stack and
yeah,
routine. And
absolutely.
so right, like you wrap up a good session, good 90 minutes in the gym. It's like, okay, well, I want to get all dialed in now to go whatever, go be a doctor, banker, teacher, whatever we're doing the rest of our day. And so I'll always have ketone IQ first thing of the day, and then I have it in that like kind of post workout, just getting getting dialed in for work mode, and then I'll also I'll have basically like sometimes like a third one in the day
Okay.
in the afternoon where like if I'm feeling energy slump, I really like what we were talking about earlier where I try to not have caffeine in the afternoon. And so if I'm having a energy slump, one of the things I like about Ketone IQ is that it gives you that feeling of energy without being caffeinated. And so
Yeah.
you're able to get this like nice like camel hump of energy without it interfering with sleep at all.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the things that give you energy, it's like caffeine gives you energy. A lot of times, like a sugary snack, you get kind of a sugar high off of it, but then you crash hard after it.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have this other option of like ability to get dialed in for a few hours at work, get that kind of zoned in feel from Ketone IQ, and then you don't have it doesn't disrupt your sleep at all, and that's the area where I like it a lot too.
Yeah. Do you feel then that there's an optimal time to take Ketone IQ, or can people just generally take it whenever they feel they need it?
If I had to pick a time, it's first thing in the morning. It's
Yeah.
just part of that stack, right? With your coffee, your greens powder, your omega 3s. A lot of people listening, and I'm sure have the like morning stack that you just get right for the day, and that's really where it plugs into most obviously. And then it kind of floater throughout the day. If you want to have it, you do an afternoon workout or you got a busy meeting in the afternoon, or whatever you got going on, it's helpful to re-energize with it. But if I had to pick one, it's really this like morning energy rise, like put it in your stack there.
Okay. And the opposite, I suppose, in a way, for the other question, is there a general time when really you shouldn't take it, like before you go to bed, as an example? Is there a time where you wouldn't recommend at all?
I would say, yeah, before bed's an interesting one because you're not going to see a lot of the like same day performance benefits if you're just about to fall asleep. We do have a lot of our cyclists will take it before bed because it does help
Okay.
slower recovery when
Interesting.
it's swimming around in your system. But
Yeah.
it's probably, I think, for the more like normal athlete, it's probably going to feel like a waste because if you're just going to sleep it off. Um, when else would I not take it? I mean, I think taking it around if you're having like really going out to dinner, dinner and drinks and all that. It feels like
Yeah.
it doesn't really have a benefit. Or it's not as perceived of a benefit. If you're eating like a large meal around it, it kind of gets diluted down, and it's just like,
Okay.
just enjoy yourself. Like I wouldn't necessarily have like high performance supplements around like what's meant to be like a fun time out with friends or colleagues. Um, so it's less, yeah, it's less of like the social um, type of fit and more of the like early in the day performance, hit your workout type of
Okay.
vibe that we go for.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Michael, to be fair to you. So thanks for sharing that. I want to get your thoughts before we wrap up on intermittent fasting and its role promoting, metabolic flexibility. How does it intersect to your approach to biohacking and optimizing health and performance?
Yeah, that's a great one. Intermittent fasting is super interesting. It's really cool how our body has the infrastructure to be able to feed ourselves even when we're not eating for a day or multiple days. And it really depends on what your goals are, right? So for a lot of athletes, they're trying to bulk up, and you got to eat enough calories. And
Yeah.
like intermittent fasting, not necessarily on the menu. A lot of maybe more athletes, I think a lot of people get into sport and fitness to lose weight, and that's where intermittent fasting can be really interesting part of the overall puzzle because it's all just an equation, right? It's at the end of the day, it's calories in, calories out, with a big asterisk next to it of what we were talking about earlier, which is like that not all calories are the same. It's a lot easier to get addicted to certain types of
Yeah.
calories versus other calories are more satiating. So intermittent fasting is a great way to just like have 0 calories in a day or 0 calories before noon. It's just a super easy way to reduce your calorie load. I think if every single time you're picking up food, you're like obsessing over the macronutrients on it, that can drive you crazy. Versus if you tell yourself, look, I'm going to let myself eat whatever I want between noon and 6 p.m., noon and 8 p.m. That's my eating window, and I'm going to eat whatever I want with a general bias towards healthier foods. then a lot of people find that they just end up eating less overall calories while not driving themselves crazy either. I've played around a lot with intermittent fasting. I've done like just to test it out. Like I've done a week-long fast and didn't die. It's cool. Your ketone levels go up. Like your body starts making a lot of ketones from fat to fuel your brain. I've done a lot of just like day-long fast. For a while I was doing a fast every Monday. Generally when I'm like ramping more higher intensity on my workouts, my personal problem is I need to eat more. Like I'm just running so much that like I'm like trying to get more down the gullet. And that's me at like 80, 90 miles per week, and I'm like 140 pounds soaking wet. So I gotta eat as much as I can. But I would say what we see a lot in our community is that when people are trying to cut down, there's a combination of lifting, obviously getting your muscle mass up, increasing your basal metabolic rate. If you just have more meat on your bones, you're going to burn more calories. That plus some light cardio. I don't think just to make it clear for people listening in, I don't think like marathon running is like the best way to like get in shape and lose weight. Like it's really fucking hard. First of all, like, you gotta spend a lot of time. You gotta run a lot, and like there's just like I run like 15 hours a week. Like I love it. Don't get me like I love it. You got to think of it as like I love golf or working on my motorcycle in my garage or something. Like I actually just love it. For actual just health wellness maintenance, I would run like 15 or 20 miles a week, and I would do equally as much, if not more, time in the gym, just like getting actual weight, getting good mobility going. And I think as part of that lifestyle, also doing some intermittent fasting. Not eating until noon, taking it easy one day a week, on maybe doing a full-on day-long fast, eating trying to eat one big meal a day and not eat a lot else outside of that. Those types of intermittent fasting, I see working really well for a lot of people, and it worked well for me too when I'm not in like peak training mode. I just want to caveat it by saying depends on where you're at in your bulking, leaning phase. But yeah, I can say like just also really direct on it. Like a lot of people in our community are in these sports where they're weight class divided, right? Like you're whether combat sports or weightlifting, things like that, where you need to come in underweight, and people do a lot of combination of intermittent fasting as well as drinking Ketone IQ for some of the. A lot of people feel that like appetite control off of it and use it to lean out and like extend an intermittent fast.
Absolutely. Brilliant, Michael. Thank you very much for that. In terms of, we're about to wrap up now. So first and foremost, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. I'm sure the listeners will as well. If people want to know more information about yourself, about Ketone IQ, where's the best places to go?
Yeah, the number one place is check out ketone.com. And you can also find us on Instagram, social media in general at Ketone IQ. And then I'm Michael D. Brandt. You can find me on social media at Michael D. Brandt. And yeah, I love hearing from people, what they're testing out, what they're seeing, any interesting stuff out there, any fitness memes, just any and all of that stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
Love to hear from people.
Awesome. And is Ketone IQ available in the UK at the moment?
It is. You can check out health.com, HEALF.
Okay.
And they're our UK partner. You probably get it other ways too. I like our website. Maybe my e-commerce team is going to kick me in the shins after this. I think we ship it there too, but I think Health, like if I'm being honest, I think health.com will get it to you the quickest. And we love the guys there. So yeah, check them out.
Oh, brilliant. We'll make sure we put all that in the show notes as well. So if people want to go directly to the source, be sure to check our show notes and you can get your supply of Ketone IQ. I've literally just started taking it thanks to you yourself and your team over the last few weeks, and I'm really seeing the benefits, especially with that afternoon slump. As soon as you mentioned that's kind of where I'm finding it the most beneficial for me personally. So yeah, I'd personally, not just saying it because you're on the podcast. If people have got an opportunity to trial Ketone IQ for a few days or a few weeks even, I really would thoroughly recommend it. So yeah, Michael, again, thank you very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get to meet in person in the near future.
Yeah, I hope so, Nathan. This is great.
Cheers.